The Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Happy Wednesday. You know what this means. It's time for my 10 observations from the week prior. Of course, the Denver Broncos beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Whoop, whoop. Finally 1-2 on the season. Playoff hopes are still alive, everybody. I talked about that this morning on your Denver Sports Daily. I know it's early and I know a lot can happen, but because we saw so much potential from this offense, I feel like I'm confident enough to say, like, playoffs aren't out of the question with this team. And that's amazing. I mean, the Bengals are 0-3. The Ravens just got their first win. Like, teams that we all expected to be very playoff heavy are like struggling. So hello, happy Wednesday. Thanks for hanging with us. Did you guys all see that Will Lutz earned the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week? Woo! Doesn't that just get you fired up for a Wednesday? We're going to be going over all of my observations, like I mentioned, though. Also, like, totally honest and, like, great for Will Lutz. I'm happy for him. I feel like there was kind of a little bit of Will Lutz drama when he took number 3 after Russell Wilson was obviously traded or let go. And everyone was like, how rude, how rude. And I was like, you guys, this needs to be one thing that we do not need to be like pissed off about. Like, let the man just move on and take the number 3. So happy hump day, everybody. Congratulations. Get this win. We back in the playoff race. So true. I love your guys' comments. Keep them coming. But yeah, I mean, this is a big game we've got up ahead on Sunday. So we have to see some of these things from my observations on Sunday against the New York Jets. And hopefully the Broncos can get another win. There's tons to dive into, a lot about the offense too. There are some things that Bo Nix did really good that I actually talked about last week that I noticed that he changed. And there's one thing in particular that I am like, Bo Nix, you got to stop doing this. It's okay on every certain occasion, but there are some things where it's like the extra effort is actually or could possibly hurt this Denver Broncos team. So we'll dive into that. We're going to dive into another defensive player who has really been shining, and I really appreciate the effort that he's been giving as well. Plus a guy that I called out last week saying, where the heck are you? He finally showed up. So there's a ton to dive into today. So happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. Let's dive into all of this stuff, everybody. Okay. We'll start with the number 1. First of all, oh, excuse me. Hold on. Let me fix that. There we go. Okay. Last week, if you watched the show, I talked about how Bo Nix had a step back. And I was like, it's too much. Like, he was stepping back 8 to 10 yards. He was diving really far back, which only hurts you in one time. You're giving the pass rush, you're giving the blitz enough time to really get to you. You're letting the rush really get to you, which you can't do. Plus, you're just having to throw for even more yardage, right? So he would step back 10 yards. Well, all of a sudden, now it's, 1st and 20, really, when he has to throw the ball. So, yeah, first of all, keep the comments coming. I already see you guys guessing who I'm going to call out here in a second. It makes me laugh. But anyway, this week, I noticed tremendously the fact that Bo Nix, in fact, fixed this. He wasn't going 8 to 10 yards back. He was going like 4 to 5 yards. And that was exactly where Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow tend to do it. They go to 5 to 7 yard range. I was like, this is what we want to see. Bo Nix, even on some of his really quick throws too, he was going like 2 yards. He was stepping back like 2 yards, boom, out. And that was great. I was like, this is what we want to see. They weren't giving the defense enough time to be able to get to him, which was fantastic. The offensive line was definitely getting some help as well, which was just overall amazing. They look like such a better cleaned up team, which is so crazy, right? Because they were missing one of their main guys. They were missing Mike McGlinchey. He wasn't out there. And yet this offensive line looked even better. But you really got to give it to Bo Nix. He wasn't stepping back as much. I appreciated that out of his game. It was nice to see him kind of be in the same, category along with like guys I mentioned. And I know Joe Burrow and the Bengals are 0-3, and it sucks that they're losing, but he's still an amazing quarterback. He's still one of those highly rated quarterbacks. So to have Bo Nix in his rookie year in game 3 already starting to look a little bit more like that, that's really nice on Sean Payton and this coaching staff to really coach him up and say, we can't be dropping back as far, man. We got to stick closer to the pocket, let it collapse on you a little bit more, and big plays can be made. So really, you got to give Sean Payton a lot of credit here because he definitely helped out this offense, and the game plan was really set nicely, I think, for Bo Nix. And we saw a lot more stuff that we saw in the preseason, which you got to love. Okay, let's see. Yep. Okay. So this is totally true too. And I 110% agree with it, which is why we've seen so much extra protection as well. But it said Bo's step back was probably because he wasn't comfortable with the O-line letting people leak into the pocket. Yes. But you got to be able to deal with the pocket collapsing on you if you are going to be in the NFL. And that's what he did a lot better of. And it was great to see. They have added extra protection. We've noticed that a lot more. One of the guys I'm actually going to talk about here in just a second was really beneficial for that as well. He's helped a ton when it comes to protection for Bo Nix. And again, the offensive line, I'm not going to sit there and say that they were great, but they have definitely stepped up from the first 2 games. And we've seen Bo not have to run as much. He's had a few opportunities, which leads me into my next one. Okay, and I say this without people getting all angry at me. Bo Nix is almost a little too dangerous with his legs. And I love it. I love seeing him move. I love seeing him run. I love seeing him juke out people. It is fun. But here's the one problem. He always, and it's so funny that I'm going to call this a problem because really, it's like we're so lucky to have a quarterback who does this, but at the exact same time, it's so dangerous. He always puts in that little bit of extra effort to get maybe another yard or 2 yards where he really just either needs to run out of bounds or he needs to slide so he doesn't get hit. We saw Bo get absolutely smashed on one of the plays. And it's like, if he continuously does this, we could lose the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos because he's hurt. Like there were so many times where I was like, oh, just run out of bounds. But he would like try to juke his way in for another like 1 or 2 yards. And I thought time and time again against the Bucs. And it's a little nerve wracking. Like your quarterback, we've got to be able to protect this man at all costs. And that's the O-line's job and protection's job. I get that. But if he's putting himself out there and he is running, he's also got to protect himself. So I just noticed that a little bit, where I was like, oh, okay. And I noticed even before I rewatched the all 22, it was during the game. I remember thinking there was one play in particular. It was in the first quarter, I believe. And he like semi-juked out a guy and then he got absolutely smashed. I was like, he can't do this. Like his ability to get hurt is just too great that he's got to really be able to protect himself. But I love the effort, right? Like that's the other thing is I love the effort. I love that he's trying to go get the 1 extra 2 yards. He's not making business decisions. But it's just like, some of these times I'm like, you just gotta just leave. I know you got 1 or 2 more yards in you, but you just need to exit out so that you don't get hurt. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh no. Let's see. Agreed. Bo needs to slide instead of stretching for extra yards. Yes, totally agree with you. I was like, I just need you to like run out of bounds on this one. I know you want to try and get down the sidelines and like tip-tap-toe or whatever, but like you're going to get absolutely rocked. And there were a few times where I was just like, it's too close for comfort, Bo Nix. I just need you to get off the field or to slide so that nobody even touches you. So, okay. I love this comment, actually. Thank you for having this. Bo Nix is 6'2", 220 with no injury history. So although I see or agree with your premise, I think at times it's nice to see his competitiveness. So this is where I struggle, right? Because yes, I love that he is putting in that extra effort and I love that he wants to get that first down on that play. But even though he has no injury history, that doesn't mean that it can't happen. Right? I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of the NFL is we see injuries all the time. We see guys that lay out, unfortunately, like Tua Tagovailoa, and then all of a sudden they've got a concussion again. It's heartbreaking. It's not what you want to see ever. So although he has no injury history, thank goodness, knock on all the wood around you, everybody, it's a little concerning because you just don't want to see him get hit and have to deal with anything. I haven't watched enough of his film down in Oregon or Auburn, to be honest, to see if this is like something he always did. Or if this is just something because he's having to do it. Maybe I'm going to add that to my to-do list and go check out some of that and see, did he always run like this in college or was it a little more safe when he was down there at Oregon? I'm actually kind of curious on that as well. All right. Number 3 on our observations against the Bucs. Extra coverage. Now, I mentioned a guy who has actually been really, really great for this Denver Broncos team, and it's a name that people actually might know. Like, it's kind of a household name because he's been around for a few years, but he's just done really, really nice job with the coverage. And I noticed him time and time again, especially in the first half for this game against the Bucs, and that's a guy named Adam Troutman. Now, of course, he had his 1 reception. He only had 1 target, but it was for 13 yards, able to get it, loved his play on that front. But the way that he is helping out this offensive line, there were different times where he read coverage so perfectly, lined it up, and Bo was able to complete a pass down to Josh Reynolds or to Courtland Sutton. Like the way he's helping be able to put off the defense just a little bit, just an extra, second or 2 to be able to not let anybody get to Bo Nix. It really is proving just the difference. And I got to give him a shout out because I feel like one of those names that a lot of people probably don't care about. He's not like some big fancy name, but he does a lot, and his size helps this team tremendously as well. And the fact that he can also catch. So he is kind of like a dual threat weapon, right? Where he's great for pass protection, but also he can be the guy that catches the ball and gets you a few extra yards. Those 13 yards were really, really good by Adam Troutman. So I just want to applaud him and give him some roses because I don't think he gets a ton of them. But I noticed it for sure quite a few times, especially in the first half against the Bucs, that he really showed out for that. So it was cool to see. All right, number 4. Let's see. Also, I see everybody whose name you're putting in the comments, and I promise we will get to that guy. Just hang on a little bit. Number 4, bounce back game. If you can guess in the next 10 seconds who I'm talking about, then congratulations. I love that you are a huge Denver Broncos fan. That is, in fact, the guy, the number 1 name probably on this team behind Bo Nix right now is Patrick Surtain. Now, you might argue with me and say he's number 1, but I feel like the quarterback just kind of always takes the cake. But Patrick Surtain had a really, really nice bounce back game. We saw a lot of flags go his way in week 2, which was unfortunate. It was like, this really sucks for him, but really he has locked down everybody. And I loved Vance Joseph's quote when asked about the flags on PS2, where he said, I would rather have a guy who's on the ball than off the ball. And I just feel like that mentality is so good when you're talking about an elite corner too. And I really, really appreciated that. I feel like that quote is just, it's nothing like special, but it's really true, right? Like, so often or not, you don't want to see the flags or anything happen, but at times you're going to see it because of such great coverage. And unfortunately, just body positions, all sorts of stuff can kind of bite players in the butt. But I really loved that. And we saw a bounce back game. I mean, he held Mike Evans to 2 receptions for 17 yards. Their number 1 wide receiver, our number 1 guy. Well, kind of 2 between Chris Godwin and him, but I feel like everyone expected him to be number 1. He still held him to 17 yards. His coverage was awesome. We saw him hold DK Metcalf really well, and George Pickens against the Steelers. Like, he did such a great job overall. He's had 11 targets for 7 receiving yards, 75 yards given up to elite wide receivers. Elite wide receiver. We're not talking about the guys that are like the third string. No, these are the top guys. And the fact that he has held them to 11 targets over 3 weeks is pretty freaking remarkable. It's worth the money for sure. Hopefully it continues to pay off. He's got a big job this weekend, of course, with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball as well. But I'm just like, PS2, I was happy to see you have a bounce back game. I was happy to see we weren't seeing flags out there time and time again. So I really loved it. PS2 is horrible according to Pro Football Focus. I haven't seen that. Have you seen all the next-gen stats stuff that's coming out on PS2? He looks like a freaking baller. I actually had a graphic that I meant to share. It was absolutely insane on what he did to Mike Evans this week. Like, when you actually see all the plays drawn up and how he did his coverage, it was fantastic. So, yeah, PS2 is having a great season. I do not know what Pro Football Focus is talking about. Maybe he's getting a little bit more action this year than in years past, but I think he's done a pretty okay job. That's crazy to me that they're even saying that. I need to like find the tweet or something, but that's insane. Number 5 is Moss everywhere. Riley Moss has been absolutely incredible. You guys, I feel like we're not talking enough about him. He has exceeded expectations for, I think, a lot of people that a lot of people had for him this year. And it's been really fun to watch him too. He is literally everywhere though. When I tell you that I saw him on so many different passes where it may not have been his guy, but he was still running over to provide some extra coverage. Like, I saw him move all over the freaking place against the Buccaneers. And I'm like, yes, Riley Moss, this is what we want from you. I love that he bounced back up after they obviously got the touchdown on Riley Moss, which sucks. It was like, okay, unfortunately, you can't win them all because he's going to get tested time and time again. But man, he has exceeded expectations. He had 21 total tackles in the month of September thus far. Granted, there's a few more days, but thus far, 21 total tackles. It's just showing you how often they are targeting him. And I feel like he's really become, I'm not going to say a lockdown corner. Okay. I'm not going to say that yet. That feels a little, feels like the ceiling's not exactly there yet. And I don't want to like diss on him at all, but it really feels like he is just emerging. And I love his attitude in the locker room. I love how he's still mad after a game that he didn't like how he played. Like, that sort of competitiveness really just gets me fired up. And I've really, really enjoyed Riley Moss. I think him and PS2, they can be a duo, man. They can really, really be a duo. And he has just leveled up and I'm so happy for him. So I think that's awesome. Let's see. Moss needs to make plays on the ball. Okay, interesting. Let's get to this comment real quick. I think for Riley Moss, just as a first-year starter in the league, I think that there is a sense of, I don't want to draw flags. And I think that's honestly a reality of like, I'm just trying to make sure that this guy doesn't catch the ball or that there's good enough coverage that they think twice about throwing it to him. I get it when you say he needs to make plays on the ball, but truthfully, I do think that there is a bit of a conversation about flags that do happen, even though, VJ just said, I'd rather have a guy who's on the ball than off of the ball. I think it's just one of those things that's going to come with time too. He's going to be able to pick up and read a lot better. I think he's solely focused on just who's right in front of him and, not exactly making the big time plays like we see with interceptions and all that kind of stuff. If that's how you're speaking about needing to make plays on the ball. But yeah, I find it to be really, really fascinating. I do see a lot of comments coming in. I promise I will get to them at the very end. And plus I'm going to talk to you guys about tomorrow's show as well, just teasing it a little bit because you really liked last week's show. And I feel like we can do something fun here. But that was my number 5 observation was Riley Moss freaking everywhere, an absolute stud. I loved it. I love seeing him. Usually I talk about Jonathan Cooper and how Jonathan Cooper is like all over the field. No Jonathan Cooper this week. Hate to disappoint, but I feel like Riley Moss is that guy for me too. And there's one other defensive player who hasn't gotten a ton of love, but I liked what I've seen from his effort-wise. Number 6, found him. I need to go back to find this comment, actually. Hold on, everybody, because you know who I found. If you tuned in last week that you said, Rachel, I know exactly who you found. Brandon Jones showed up and showed out. Thank goodness for you, Brandon Jones. I'm so glad. Let's just do a little quick rewind, everybody. This was last week, okay, on this exact show. I didn't have quite the energy. Apparently I was sleepy last Wednesday, but just listen. Brandon Jones, where are you, dude? I'd like to see some more out of you, right? You had big shoes to cover. With Justin Simmons living, so we need you to kind of step up and be that guy. So we'll see what ends up happening with Brandon Jones. Called him out, and then he freaking showed up and got an interception. He read Baker Mayfield so perfectly on Sunday for that interception. It was chef's kiss. I couldn't ask for more from Brandon Jones. I called him out. I said, where are you? And he showed up beautifully. So I was so happy to see that. 2 big plays from him. I'm excited for this week, you guys. I'm excited because this Broncos secondary is making me excited. We're talking about PS2. We're talking about Riley Moss. We're talking about Brandon Jones. We're talking about PJ Locke. Like, they're all getting me really excited. This Broncos defense is, I think, better than we all expected them to be, and it's been really, really fun. But I am so happy that we finally saw Brandon Jones kind of come out and say, you know what? Justin Simmons, who? He's got a ways to go. Let's not discredit Justin. Also, I can't believe he picked off Patrick Mahomes the other night. Like, that man haunts Patrick Mahomes for sure, but I was really happy to see him really shine too. So how do we feel about Brandon Jones? Are we happy with the trade? Are we still kind of like, or uneven? I guess not trade, but like free agency signing. I was a little nervous. I wasn't going to lie. I saw a lot of bad comments about Brandon Jones being like, nope, overrated, don't want him, glad he's leaving Miami, yada, 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 yada. I feel like he's done a really, really solid job. So I'm happy, but we got to keep it up. Like, these are the type of things we need to see every single week. And I'm excited for this opportunity for the secondary against Aaron Rodgers for sure. Okay. Let's see. Let's just check the comments. Dun, 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 dun. Moss is holding his own and getting better. He really is. It's so fun to watch. I love that you guys are still happy about it. Simmons still picking off Mahomes. Isn't that so funny? Like, he truthfully has to haunt Patrick Mahomes so much. I love watching it. It just cracks me up. And Justin Simmons is such a great guy too. So like, I wish him all the best of luck with the Falcons. They're getting so many primetime games. So he's doing all of that. I don't know. I wonder if his family moved. I'm assuming they probably did. He's got 3 young kids actually, I think now. But Justin Simmons, just such a great dude. He was always great to the media. So I'll wish him the best forever. Of course, unless the Broncos ever play him, then unfortunately he gets the short end of the stick. But we'll go on to number 7 for my observations. What's Javonte missing? And I saw a lot of comments, and I see a lot of the comments coming in about, should Peyton bench Javonte? Should Javonte not get as many carries? What's going on with Javonte? One of the things that I really noticed, especially early on in the game, and unfortunately the fumble, I think it screwed up his mentality a little bit. And I asked James Palmer this yesterday on Coffee Break. I said, can Javonte's mindset and his mental health allow him to overcome any hurdles he's going to deal with this week or this year. And James said, I don't know. And that's unfortunately the really sad reality is like, yeah, I don't know. I want Javonte to thrive. I really do. There's like so much love for Javonte from when he was the back that was getting all the highlights. And I feel like I talk about this all the time. Like he was that guy. And then unfortunately the injuries just absolutely crushed him. So I don't know. What's he missing? I can tell you one thing. He didn't have great reads on Sunday. How many times there was a open alley essentially in the offensive line? I can't think of the word that I'm missing of right now, but it was open if he would have gone 3 inches to his right or to his left, and instead he ran right into defenders, and it just to the offensive line and defensive or D line. My goodness, I can't talk anymore. But one way or another, it was like his reads just haven't been great. And we've dogged on him about how many yards he's getting per carry and all of that stuff. Well, when you're running into the back of your offensive line, of course you're not going to get many. Instead, when it's opening up for you and you have the alleyway to run with it, and he just doesn't. And I don't know. I don't know if he's just not seeing things. His coverage was a lot better on Sunday. I'll give him that, but it's just like it's not clicking. Something's missing, and I just really feel for him. Like I want him so badly to be successful, and I know everybody else out there is like, yes, I do too. Yeah, R.I.P. Pookie. Like Jay Will still is a good pass catcher. Totally agree with that. He finds ways to get open if Bo's still holding onto the ball. Like he does a really good job with that. But it's just not entirely there for like the rush portion of it. And I just don't know. I feel like I'm at a loss of words when it comes to Javonte Williams because I really do want him to succeed so badly. And it just something is missing and I don't know what that is. I would love to sit down with him and just be like, walk me through what's going on in your head. Right? Like everybody is sitting here talking about how you should be benched and everybody is sitting here talking about how you're not the same. Like, does that affect you personally? Do you hear the noise around it? Obviously would never have that opportunity, but I'm just like, oh, I feel for him. Javonte is the third down running back. I don't know. I don't know what to feel about Javonte right now. And I see your guys' questions all the time. They're like, should we do Batty, whichever one you want to call him? Like, should he be the guy that gets a majority of the carries? Jaleel McLaughlin hasn't done anything crazy. Besides his really good juke out on Sunday, let's be real, for the touchdown, like, I feel like he hasn't done a whole lot either. When is Estime due back? Great question. Estime technically has 3 more weeks. He went on IR ahead of the game against the Bucs, I believe. No. He missed the game against the Steelers too. So he's got 2 more weeks on IR. Yeah, that's a huge bummer actually. Man, feels like he's been gone a lot longer than that, but it's only been 2 weeks. So 2 more weeks that he's left on IR, and then hopefully he will return. The weirdest thing though, like nobody knew that he was hurt. I feel like we were in the locker room and like didn't notice one bit. And then all of a sudden we're getting, notified that he went to IR. So hopefully he'll be back in the 4 weeks though. I'm not sure what the actual update on his injury is. Okay. These shows go by way too fast. I love doing the show with you guys so much. One, because I get to interact so much with the comments, but it goes by so fast too. Like literally we're on number 8 and I feel like I talked for forever. It feels like. Okay, one hell of a game plan. Let's just give our roses to Vance Joseph. 100%. I feel like this Broncos defense, I mentioned it earlier, they have just really, exceeded expectations. I feel like we weren't expecting them to be all that good. I don't know if it was because at training camp we were watching the quarterbacks kind of cook the defense a little bit. I say that like lightly because it felt like some days they really did and others it was the defense 100%. But you just got to give it to Vance Joseph. First of all, I watched guys who never flinched on anything that Tampa Bay was doing. It was like, yep, we know 100% what's about to happen. And that's amazing. That means that these guys are studying and they're paying attention and they're locked in on the game plan. And I feel like that also has to do with a lot of leadership too, which is just amazing. But the fact that they rank number 3 overall in yards allowed, number 6 in points allowed, like we're talking high-strung defenses right here who are playing really good ball. And that's Denver. They're keeping them in the game for sure. Tampa Bay, I think this was a bit of a fluke game for Tampa Bay. I think this was a bit of a fluke for Baker Mayfield. I think they kind of overlooked the Broncos. They were coming off of that big high against Detroit. And I think it was just a bit of a fluke game. I think that Tampa Bay is still probably going to be a playoff team. I think it's going to be a little bit of a brawl for them to get there, come to the finish line in December. But I think that they're still going to be a playoff team, and it's fun to watch them. Like, let's be real. Baker has found his place. He feels really comfortable down there. Him and Mike Evans have such a great connection as well. I think that this was a fluke game for the Bucs. And I think that the Broncos defense is also just that good. And they overlooked the Broncos, and they showed them up. They only allowed them to score 7 points. So really nice job by Vance Joseph, just getting this team prepared and allowing them to be, mentally prepared, physically prepared, on top of the game plan, having communication. I've talked about this in weeks prior, but they also are just like constantly supporting each other. And I think that goes a really long way as well. So I was happy on that one for sure. And then I actually feel like I want to talk about one other person. But I guess I'll go in order just because it makes more sense to go in order. But there's one guy on the defense, you guys, that I'm just like really high on, and I'm excited about him. And I feel like it's a name nobody's really talked about. But before we get to there, I've got a pro and a con on the guy that's considered the wide receiver number one. And there was a definitely strong emphasis to, showcase him as wide receiver number one, Courtland Sutton. But I just don't think that the connection with him and Bo Nix is there yet. There were a couple of throws where it was like very clearly it was off between Courtland Sutton and Bo Nix throughout the entire game. There was also one where Bo unfortunately did. The ball was too low and Courtland just couldn't get underneath it. But I just think it's like 1 or 2 footsteps that we're talking about too, where the connection can be off. Sometimes those balls are spot on and you really got to give it to them. But when you have that strong connection, it's like, you know exactly where that person is going to be and the ball's going perfectly there. Like that's when it gets really dangerous. I think that's a very, very strong possibility for Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton. And I love that Sean Payton finally emphasized being like, yeah, we're going to throw to our number one wide receiver. Good, you should. No one else is trying to avoid him. You should throw to your number one wide receiver. You should be able to allow him to get hopefully those incentives, some bonuses this year because he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. Fingers crossed. But I'm happy for Courtland Sutton that he is getting that emphasis to really go out there and be it. And I know he wants to be it, but he also made some big time catches on Sunday. And I think that that's proving that he can be that wide receiver number one. It's just working on that last connection piece with Bo Nix, and time, of course, will help that. And I think it could happen by the end of the year. I think he's going to get his bonuses, you guys. I really do. I wasn't very sure, but I'm happy to do it. Yep. Bo's 3 interceptions went to Sutton. Indeed. A lot cleaned up in week 3, so I'm going to give him that. We didn't see any Bo Nix interceptions, but yeah, the connection is just not 100% there yet, but I do think that it can happen. So just stay patient, everybody. Okay, my last and final observation, and then we will get to some more of the comments, is Roach follow through. Malcolm Roach is a name that we have not talked a whole lot about. Now, in the offseason, I feel like everyone was kind of like, oh, Malcolm Roach, okay, what are you going to bring to the table? I've been really impressed thus far. 1, on his coverage, but 2, after it seems like every single play, he is still running over to provide that extra coverage. When you watch the all 22, guys, it's so crazy to see the guys like an Adam Troutman as well, who's just constantly, they're all over the place, or Riley Moss running across the field to make sure that he can be there for coverage too. That's like Malcolm Roach. And I was really impressed. And I just kept seeing his number time and time again, running down to make sure that he could help on coverage. Even if he didn't make it all the way, he was still trying to sprint down there. And I think that's what makes defenses really, really solid. It's like, just because the play got past you doesn't mean the play is dead. And so I like that out of him. Good to see his number, but yeah, for sure. It was just one of those things where I was like, all right, I see you over there. We haven't talked a whole lot about you. I'll give you a little bit of roses. So there's a few people who gave roses to today. The defense overall, you just got to give a big rose to. They held a really good Tampa Bay offense to 7 points, which is amazing. And then my favorite one was Bo Nix and the fact that he's not stepping back 10 yards. And I was like, yes, we're looking a little bit more like Patrick Mahomes every single time. But let's see. Let's get to some of your comments. There's so many. Okay. Peyton needs plays to get Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin involved and not just as decoys. Yes and no. You're also dealing with the fact that both of those 2 guys have slightly struggled a little bit. So it's like you can't be willing to give up a play if you're not sure if he's going to bring it down. And I feel like that is Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin a little bit. So continue to let him build some stuff with Bo Nix, but I don't know. I'm not all in on Marvin Mims yet. I feel like a lot of people want me to be, but I'm not. So it makes me a little nervous. Vaylite update. Great question. We are hoping to hear. So the Broncos are obviously in West Virginia. Andrew Mason and Cecil Lammey are both down there as they get ready to take on the Jets. So be up to date. Peyton's probably going to talk here in just a little bit about injury updates. We'll be able to release everything. In case you didn't know, like essentially we can't release anything until Sean Payton begins to talk to the media. So I haven't heard anything, but that's just a big heads up right there. We will probably hear an update. I'm sure the media will be asking down there to see what's going on with him, because personally he was wide receiver number 1 for the first 2 weeks, or first week, at least in my opinion. Rachel, do you think Kroll could give the tight ends a boost? Oh, great question. Yes, I do actually. I think Greg Dulcich is overhyped. I don't think he has lived up to the expectations that they had for him. Feels like they can't involve him at all. I would love to see Lucas Kroll. He's big. He's fast. Like, get him out there. Let's not just use him for pass protection. Let's actually see him get involved in the passing game a little bit more. So I would love that. Yeah, tight end room is MIA. Totally, 100%. Like, literally non-existent. Greg Dulcich had 1 catch, I believe. I don't remember. I think like 7 yards or something. It was nothing. And I'm like, nope, I'm over it. I'm over it. Let's see. When will we see Peyton use our tight ends more in the pass game? I don't know. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's trust. I don't know what it is, but it is bad. It's just frustrating. Should Peyton bench Javonte and give Beatty or Bidet more reps in games? Great question. I think this is the make or break game for Javonte. I think you give him the start here. You see what he's able to do. Can he overcome the hurdle? Because if you just automatically bench him, then it's like done for him probably. I don't think you can come back from that. So you kind of have to tread lightly on that water, see if he's able to improve this week. You know, you go in, you watch film on Mondays, you're doing that the entire week and you're saying, okay, what can I do? Where am I needing to improve? And hopefully he's able to do that for Javonte. If not, I do think that this is make or break and you have to start giving some of the other guys like some other looks. Oh my goodness. All right, well, we have some injury updates. Hold on, everybody. I want to make sure that this is good. Give me a quick second. We've got some injury updates. I'm just not sure if we are allowed to. Okay, I think we can talk about it. Big news. Alex Singleton has an ACL tear. This is like massive, massive news. Unfortunately, this is so unfortunate right now. Again, it is just coming out. Hold on 1 second. I want to make sure. Yep. Alex Singleton out for the season with an ACL. You guys, this is a massive, massive blow. I cannot believe every single week I feel like we're talking about something like this. So this is huge. This is such a bummer. I'm going to just tweet this out real quick. Major Broncos update. Oh, man. Hold on. Broncos update, injury updates. So Sean Payton obviously was just speaking to the media, which is really unfortunate. I was wondering why they signed another guy to the – oh, you guys. I thought it was Baron Browning. I thought we were going to see some injury updates over there with Baron Browning, but this is really unfortunate that Alex Singleton, the leader, a captain of this team, is now out with an ACL tear. I'm really curious if he tore this in practice or if he tore it in the game. Let's see. Okay. Wow. This is insane. He actually ended up tearing it in the second defensive series in the first quarter of the Broncos game against the Bucs. So he played the entire game. Oh, just such a bummer. Yeah, I see all of the comments to make sense why they signed Alexander. Again, I thought it was Baron Browning. I thought that they were not going to see him for a bit. This is a huge, just like massive blow. He played all 57 snaps and finished with the team most 10 tackles on Sunday, and they lose him now to an ACL tear. Alex Singleton, if you did not see it, everybody, just unfortunately was released that he in fact did tear his ACL. Such a massive bummer. 2 captains down. Yeah, this is such a bummer. Hence Alexander signing Alex Singleton. I know, prayers up for a healthy recovery. That's a massive blow. He has kept this defense really locked and loaded. Man, that's just so unfortunate. It's really going to be next man up mentality. I'm like trying to wrap my head around it. He's kind of the glue that holds that defense together too. Just for somebody too that communicates with everybody overall. I feel like we've really seen that time and time again. So, that's a massive blow. Really, really unfortunate. I'm really sad for him too, to be completely honest with you. That's just such a massive, and of course they come out and say that they were shocked that he tore his ACL and yet still played the rest of the game. He will have surgery in 2 weeks per Sean Payton, and he will be out for the rest of the season. Such a massive blow. The good news is the Broncos historically have gotten the best out of their linebacker room. I agree with you. They have a lot of depth there, but yeah, that's really just unfortunate for that guy in particular, for Alex Singleton. I mean, of course, you never want to see injuries. Like, please don't take that the wrong way. But yeah, that's a massive bummer. We need Drew Sanders back soon now. That they, in fact, do. All right, you guys, that is going to do it, though, for today's 10 observations. Obviously, breaking news that comes out right as we were about to wrap the show. I'm glad we stayed on for it. So bummed for Alex Singleton. I'm wishing him the best of luck in recovery. Amazing captain. He's done so much for this team. So just such a huge bummer. We'll see what the Broncos end up doing now. Of course, check out denversports.com for all the updates on everything else that Sean Payton is talking about. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Real quick, before I peace out, you guys loved my Thursday rants yesterday or last week. You loved them. I just kind of went off about how everybody was giving Bo Nix such a hard time. Tomorrow is media day for the Denver Nuggets. I'm going to put a thing on my Twitter, so please go fill it out. I'm going to put something like Rachel's Rants. I feel like we should just title this or something. What do you want me to talk about? And fill in the blanks if you want Rachel to talk about blank. I'm really curious what you guys would like to hear my opinion on. Cold, hard truth, whatever it is. Like, I feel like the Jamal Murray situation is really one that I want to dive into a little bit tomorrow with it being media day. We can talk Broncos, who's disappointed me. Like, whatever you guys can think, either let me know down below or on the comments, or please go fill that little question box out on Twitter and I will get to them tomorrow. So appreciate you guys so much. Let's get into a Rachel's Rants. I'll have my 3 keys to the game to beating the Jets on Friday. There's plenty more good stuff here on Coffee Break for the rest of the week, and we will see you guys then. Peace out, everybody. Let's see. Seems like you get a lot of, I just got a text message from one of my family members saying, seems like you get a lot of breaking news on your shows. I do. It's fun. It's unfortunate. But yes, injuries definitely suck. And to lose your captain, even a more big bummer. All right, you guys, we will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody. Peace.